Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Effective Corrective Actions webinar. I'm Rachel Pradhan, Marketing Director here at EASE, and we are known for our mobile app Beacon Quality, which makes quality visible by bringing it to the plant floor. And today I'm very excited to introduce Ali Rizwan. Ali is an experienced Director of Quality within the automotive manufacturing industry. He's worked for such companies as Saturn Electronics and Engineering, and is currently with Continental and has been there for a number of years as their Director of Quality. His focus is on quality assurance with experience with DMAIC, value stream mapping, failure mode and effective analysis, and quality management. And we're really happy he's here to talk about something he's very passionate about, effective corrective actions. So we're going to review a little bit about what Ali will be discussing, but first a little bit of housekeeping. You may have questions as Ali goes through his presentation, and if you want to ask a question, you just go to the GoToMeeting console that you see on your screen, and you'll see a questions box, and you just click that and you can type in your question and we will receive it. Towards the end of the webinar, we'll go through those questions for you. Also, I have with me today Paul Foster, our product manager for Beacon Quality, and he will jump in towards the end of the webinar just to discuss a little bit about what's the upcoming updates to Beacon Quality in relation to corrective actions. So today we'll be going over, and Ali, if you want to go to the agenda, and then we can go over that, and we'll let you get started.
Okay, can everybody see my agenda?
Yep. If you want to click the launch the PowerPoint, then
one second.
There we go.
Okay, here it is. Yeah.
Perfect. So we'll be going over. Do you want to go over the agenda?
No, you can go ahead, Rachel. No problem.
Oh, okay. So Ali will be going over what is the corrective action and what leads to corrective actions. What are some types of corrective actions and what are not suitable? What are the roadblocks that you might come across for effective corrective actions, and challenges that you'll face as you start to implement corrective actions at your plant, how to actually implement corrective actions effectively, and then how does management actually play a big role in sustainable corrective actions, and then how LPA and systems like Beacon Quality can help you monitor effective corrective actions. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. So thank you so much, Ali, for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you for Beacon Quality to invite me to speak to this topic. So thank you, listeners, and the people who have joined this seminar. So I'll just go through some key points. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah. 1 second, please.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, let me start with the first part of it. That is, what is a corrective action? Oh, I cannot put my page down. 1 second.
Okay.
Rachel, I cannot put my page down, you know. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah. Everybody knows what a recall is, right? there are multiple recalls every day you see on news channels. It could be for food industry, it could be for a toy, but basically we are in the industry of automotive and manufacturing, so I would stick to that. So every day we go through a lot of recalls, and recalls is nothing but a mistake done by a certain manufacturing company, and they realize it and they have a recall. Then they do a corrective action. So you saw the latest one in Honda Odyssey, BMW, such a big company, Jakarta, everybody knows about the airbag crisis. And it's not only limited to automotive, you also have Boeings and Dreamliners. So ANA is a huge company coming out of Japan, and they also have problems. So there's a recall of their own planes too. So much so we also go after our famous phone. Everybody has either a Samsung phone or a Motorola phone or an Apple phone. If you can recall, a couple of years ago when Galaxy 7 Note was launched, airlines would say no more carrying Galaxy phones because it would explode in the plane for safety reasons. So that was a big concern. Lately, Apple also had its problems with its batteries, so they wanted to replace the batteries. So if you look at an overall picture about quality is basically you're talking about money and some mistakes which we have done, and then it cost the company money, and how to do the right corrective actions. So
Ali,
going back to, yes.
Can you click on your PowerPoint to go to the next slide?
Yeah, I did.
We're still just seeing the agenda.
No, I did set the. Can you see that now?
On the top right, is there a little play button in the go-to window?
It might be on pause. Yeah.
No, I do have that agenda right now here. I mean, I got the quality recall here. Rachel, why don't you switch over and then you can have that,
Yeah, I'll do that. So let me.
That'll be more easy for me because I do not know what's happening for me from my end.
No problem. So let me just bring that up. And can you see my screen okay now?
This is my screen, so should I close my screen?
No, don't close it. Go at, so.
Can you see the go-to?
Open the go-to webinar from the very bottom of your computer.
On the what do you call that?
Taskbar. He left. Ali, are you still on the line?
Yeah, I'm on the line, but I cannot. I think I got disconnected again for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay. Well, can you see my screen?
Yes, we should still be broadcasting. So we're on the quality recalls cost page, and you were talking about the different recalls and issues that are seen in quality outside of automotive industry.
Okay. So you're on page number 3, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So everybody sees that page now, pretty much?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a lot of people they do understand the recall, what's basically we are looking for, right? Means they can see the examples of the Honda, BMW, and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So I did explain that a minute ago. Sorry for the confusion on this some settings up here. So if you go to the next page, that's one of my favorite pages here, which says management review meeting. So if you look at the management review meeting, any management review meeting we go to, the first thing is that we look at and say who to blame. That's the number one thing. And then you go to other management meetings, and to address this mistake, we need to utilize our thorough system of root cause analysis. And the first thing we say is that, if I may, by pointing out that's not my fault. So usually most of the manufacturing suppliers or of them, when they said that, somebody will always say it's not my fault. So the word is not your fault. We represent our own companies. So the customer does not see an individual or a department or a quality department or a manufacturing department or logistics. They say the name of that particular company. The first step in solving the problem is recognizing there is one. So if you do not recognize a customer complaint, then we cannot put a corrective action in place. Next slide.
Okay.
So everybody goes to one simple Google and for any definition. So I found out two definitions, one from Webster and one for Wikipedia. What exactly is a corrective action? From the Webster dictionary, it clearly states identification and elimination of the causes of the problem, thus preventing their reoccurrence. That is the Webster's definition. From Wikipedia, it clearly says improvement to an organization's process taken to eliminate causes of non-conformities. So non-conformity could be a defect, non-conformity not meeting the customer requirements, non-conformity could be like you're not shipping the goods in times. It could be multiple things. So non-conformity is not limited only to manufacturing. So wherever a customer is dissatisfied, then you have a non-conformity and they want you to fix it. It's also usually a set of actions and laws governed by some organization, manufacturing, documentation, procedures, system to rectify and eliminate recurring non-performance. Next slide.
Okay.
So the next question pretty much comes to most of the manufacturing suppliers, small, medium, or large, or within divisions of a big company, is like what leads to a corrective actions. A lot of people understand what leads to a corrective action, but a lot of people also do not understand there could be multiple reasons what leads to a corrective action. It's not necessary every time it's coming only from the customer. Somewhere or the other, a non-conformity has occurred. Warranty claims are the biggest claims. If you look at the big three, Ford, GM, Chrysler, everybody gets a warranty claim under 36,000 miles. So if you have a warranty claim under the 36,000 miles, and it happens to be one of your manufacturing companies, most of they have their warranty failure mode and they send it back to you, and that's a huge cost. They want you to fix it either with the current situation, or they want to fix it with in future designs and things. If you are to be in the automotive industry, most important thing is customer service. If you have a poor customer service and you do not respond to their corrective actions, nowadays I've also heard that if you do not have the right advanced planning APQP done, you can also get a non-conformance. You need a corrective action for that, for not responding in time in their portals. One of the most important things is you'll always have complaints. Every manufacturing company will always have complaints. But the thing is that a customer really gets upset if you have a repeat issue. A repeat issue is not that when the customer thinks that a certain supplier is not taking them seriously. If you have the same repeat issues, it causes a customer a lot of discomfort. The next portion of this is not meeting delivery requirements. If you are not meeting your delivery requirements, then you have a problem. If you're not in time, you can shut the line down. There's a lot of people there, and they need a reason why you do not have the right parts in the right time. Because most of the companies, especially the Japanese companies, they are just in time. and they need a corrective action, what was the reason for that, and a good backup plan. Product not meeting a CSR. For a lot of people, CSR is also stands for customer specific requirements. A customer tells you to build a part to a print. The customer tells you build a part. This is the way I want it. This is the specification. You have a little variation in that, and if you from the original part, that means you're not meeting the print. The next portion of is that poor communications. Poor communications can be internally and could be externally. If you do not talk to your customer the right way, the right time, you do not go into the portals, that could be, they can ask you for corrective actions. Bias. Timely response, meeting promised dates. Most of the automotive companies launch their product in a certain date. They have certain dates which they have to do their testing, they have to do their part validation, testing, and if you do not meet the dates, because there's a lot more people waiting for your parts to be delivered, then they need corrective action. How did not meet the date? Last but not the least, any corrective action, if it's not sustainable, then that also leads to another corrective action. So they ask a question, okay, here you have 3 repeat issues, you have put all this together, but again you have this a problem. So you have to make sure that your corrective actions are sustainable. The next slide.
There you go.
You okay? Okay. The next slide is like why do corrective action is not sustainable? And this is one of my favorite slides here, because most of the suppliers in this industry, I've been in this industry for more than 25 years now, is like the mindset is not there. People think corrective action is a ritual that we have to get over with it. The mindset of all the manufacturing location should be there, that corrective action is something which we need from a management perspective, and management should join in to say, yes, we will have a corrective action which brings value. No commitment to corrective action from existing and future business. You have to understand that this business here is on, if you're going by RFQ, like there could be RFQs based on price, design, innovation, and last but not the least is quality. If any of these, if you have a RFQ rejected for quality, that means your corrective actions are not sustainable for your current product. So you have a risk in future products. A lot of the companies, when you go there, they also, or suppliers, they say they're resistant to change. That could be people, mentality, management does not want to change. They do not want to put the corrective actions in place, because some of the corrective actions are simple, it's common sense. Some of the corrective actions require money. There's a resistance to spend some money. Some of them require new technology. So if you have to be competitive, you have to have some type of the current market situation. How is the market growing, and in compared to other countries of the world? Because most of the suppliers are a global company. Complaints are not only contained temporarily. Means they only contain temporarily. Means they are only looking for, okay, now I've got done with this. This is okay, but I'm not going to look at across the aisle. I'll not across the matrix, across similar parts, and then that could happen in another section. But we have to look at across everywhere within the same facility or different facilities manufacturing the same part. Inadequate root cause is not identified. Sometimes we jump to the conclusion that the root cause is already there. Means this is how we have to look at multiple root causes and find out what is the exact root cause happening. Traditionally, when we do a corrective action, we do not look outside the box because most of the companies think we are in this business for 30 years or 40 years or 100 years. We have done this way. This is the only root cause which could happen. There could be multiple factors. So we need to change our culture with our management, the people who we work with, that we need to think something outside the box of our current practices, because why is our current practices not working? Next slide. roadblocks, because roadblocks, this is a lot of the quality managers across the world faces. They do want to do a good job. They do want to have good corrective actions, but there's a lot of resistance uh, at different levels, and especially at management level, because management do not want to see how the plants are run, because management only wants to stop the problem, because they do not see the full picture. If you look at the full picture, they do not look at the full. They see, okay, I have a problem, just fix it, and but this could be a problem on the same line. It could be the same product of different customer, because one of the main reasons is that there's no budget. Every corrective action can be simple fix, or sometimes it requires a budget to make the necessary changes. Some of the companies are union related, so you just cannot make a corrective action without involving the union. So you have to bring the union in place of a corrective action, say this is important for us because this can leave a cost, it can be a recall, it can affect our business. That has to be explained. There could be regulatory requirements which may not allow you to do that. There could be legal requirements, different countries, different legal requirements. For example, like you may have a product which is you can make a corrective action, say in the United States, but the same corrective action from a legal perspective could be difficult in Mexico or in Europe or in China. Uh, the management does not see that if I put a corrective action, if I'm spending $50,000 on it, I do not have a return on investment. But there's a short-term thinking, and there's a long-term thinking. Most of the things said this is not normal for us, and my emphasis is like when you do a corrective action, the entire team and the top management should be involved to make sure there has to be some motivation that this is important to put a corrective action in place. So if there's no motivation that we believe in a corrective action, the people who are doing the corrective action will not have the discipline to do it. And if you look at all the corrective actions and 8Ds and like discipline to do that, most of them will write down, I gave a warning and training. Yeah, that's good, but that's not the only option. We have to look at it. Why was the training not effective? Why did it not happen? So the question is that you have to go the root cause, because people also play a huge role in it. Next slide.
Okay.
So what the next point is that there are some challenges in implementing a corrective action. There are 3 points to it, basically. Well, the most important is that understanding the problem. If you do not understand the problem, it's very important, like when a customer sends you a complaint, because many a times you get a lot of complaints coming from the customer that's not written the right way. We have to understand, was that the real problem? Because if you do not understand the problem, if the problem statement is not right, anything going down will be non-value added. So I always put a lot of emphasis on understanding the problem, and your problem statement should be right. It should be checked and counter-checked, because sometimes if a customer just says in a vague words, it can cost the company or the suppliers a lot of non-value added time and money. So it can also lead to a lot of investigations which could be hampered. Means that they are like, we may do the wrong investigation for the wrong problem. The problem could be something else. So that's very important that we make it happen the right way. And the poor planning, if the planning is not right, if you do not have poor planning, I mean to say that if you do not have all the information about your corrective action, you do not have a right team in place, you do not have, for example, if it is a problem you dealing with equipment, and your equipment expert is not there, your maintenance manager is not there in the team, that is, I call it poor planning, because it has something to do with equipment. So the engineering manager or the product industrialization manager, along with production and quality, should be there to investigate why that equipment is not working the right way. If you go to it's a logistics issue, so you need to understand the logistic partners, the warehouse people, the transport companies, how the parts got damaged. Those are the people who should be a part of the thing. Most of the time, in my experience, I see poor corrective actions because you see that it has been written by a couple of people, usually the quality engineer, and the full picture is not there. So it's important. A good planning is there to do a good corrective action. The next slide.
Okay.
So there are challenges in implementing the corrective action. So basically, if you look at it, like why is the weak approval process? What do you mean by weak approval process? Weak approval process basically means that you will have a person who approves it is usually like an engineer or somebody higher up, and it's not been reviewed by a team. So if a good approval process is that the management, the plant management team, or the higher up people, somebody goes and verifies it, that yeah, this is the corrective action, we need to do it, and this is the way we have to do. This has been approved, and sometimes it also takes a long time for approval and they're not taking responsibility. So when a corrective action happens, everybody should jump on it that our customer is not happy. So the approval process should have the right people of making sure that we have the right corrective action. Many times I've seen you have very good corrective actions written on paper, but when it's verified on the floor, or when you go check it out, or at suppliers, or it is a weak implementation. So when you have a weak implementation, that means one example would be that in a corrective action, they would say all shifts have been trained and all equipment have been changed. But usually it's only in the first shift. But if you verify the second shift, it's not there. You verify the third shift, it's not there. And when you verify the off shifts, you do not have it. So the implementation is not good enough. That will lead to another problem, and you'll have a repeat issue coming from the off shifts. So you also have, which I call it a weak effectiveness. A weak effectiveness means like whenever you put a implementation, you have to see the effect of it. For example, like if you have a part which I call it red rabbits, to see that if the machine will catch it, if you have an error proofing device, or if you have a poka-yoke in place, or if you have your people trained, if you put a wrong part number, that's very important to check the effectiveness, whether your corrective action is happening. People just write something, but they really do not use the effectiveness on their corrective actions. That could lead to the corrective actions being poor, and again a problem could happen. Next question.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Implement effective corrective action. How do we implement effective corrective action? So a good implementing of a corrective action would be, you have to understand the quality standards. Means, do you have your processes in place? For example, in the automotive industry, you use the PPAP, and one of the most important part of the PPAP is the control plan, FMEA, or the customer specific requirements. You have significant characteristics or critical characteristics. Have you considered all that? Those are the quality, pretty much the standards we are using. And if you do not use them, the tools, then it could be a problem. The other part is that you have to have a good team build there. I mean, if you do not have a good team, which we do not consider two things, and most of the I would say corrective actions or during audits, internally from a TS perspective or from a customer's perspective, whether Ford, GM, Chrysler comes, they look at the risk management. Have you considered the risk of their product? What can go wrong on an FMEA? Means have you considered the risk? Means those things are very weak. So we need to put sure that your risk management is into consideration. System management is the implementation of your processes, your documentation has it there. And again, I strongly hold the leadership accountable. It's very important that the leadership is a part of the implement a corrective action that includes the plant management system. Hey, is it working? Not working? Somebody's making a check. They're doing layered process audits to make sure that it's there, it's not there. But as I would not go into the problem definition again, because I already explained earlier, the problem definition is most important to have a very effective and corrective action which can be implemented. So overall on this slide is, if you want to have a good corrective action, your leadership, your top management should be held accountable also, because most of the time they leave it up to the quality manager and the quality department to fix the issues, but usually it's a team thing. Everybody should be held accountable, at not only the quality manager or his department. Next slide.
Okay.
So the PFMEA risk and tracking and corrective action. So I'm a big fan of PFMEA because I think it's one of the Bibles which everybody should use. It's not a piece of paper just sitting for PPAP, because whatever you would look into the PFMEA, it has three distinct things. It's called the severity based on what you have to go. You have to have a good occurrence system and you have to have a detection system. I was one time at a customer and he asked me two questions, and he basically asked me, do you have a good occurrence? How do you know that? And how do you know it's being detected? So use your PFMEA to track your corrective action tracking plan, and use your risk. Your RPN numbers will calculate your risk, how big is your risk, and depending on your critical characteristics, significant characteristics, high impact characteristics, and how it affects the customers. Means how is the fit and function happening at your customers? That's also very important. When you write a corrective action, is make sure that if the corrective action is followed up at your customer and the fit and function of your part has been accepted there, and that could be a part of your PFMEA, that the fit and function is also can be incorporated within your corrective action. So they do not have that issue, because many times we always think that is a company's problem. It's always a supplier's issue. It's always the supplier did not do it, or it is not that way. We have to make sure that many times even our customers can have issues. So we need to work with them, come up with a plan and say, this is the different ideas we think this can go wrong. And that really helps the customers. And customers, if you be upfront with them, they really like and they welcome it, Next slide.
Okay.
Okay, 1 second. Yeah. So PFMEA risk and tracking and corrective action. So basically, everybody knows there are 7 types of waste in this industry. But a lot of people do not understand that why there could be other ways too. For example, transportation is a big problem. If you are if you're not putting a good corrective action and you're not looking at your transportation companies, how they take their product, you may build a great product, but if their transportation is not the right way, then it can be a problem. Defects, everybody knows there are multiple defects happening: motion, human review, inventory, overproduction, transportation, and extra processing. Extra processing, I always say, is like something which is not a part of your parts approval process. Anything which you touch, which is not from your original process, that needs to be corrected for a corrective action internally, because that's waste of money for the company. It's non-value added. And the 8th one, which I always say is missing, is the human factor, because we need to consider the eighth waste, which is that we need to make sure that the the people are involved in it. We do not consider the people into our waste thing because they have a lot of input to it. Please consider them also that their knowledge is not wasted. So when you are doing a corrective action, besides the 7 waste you are bringing in place, always make sure that the right people are on board. And when you are doing a corrective action, please involve your operators. They have tons of knowledge. They will bring you so much ideas and that gives a good recognition to them. They also understand they are part of the team. So when you have any corrective action to be made, make sure that you have all different types of people involved, and at the floor level, include your operators. Next one.
Okay.
The key factor to any company, or big, small, medium, large, or any supplier, is transparency. Transparency ranges right from the top management down to the operator level. Everybody who touches your part, whether it could be inside an accounting department, it could be logistics, it could be somebody, an operator, engineering, product industrialization, operations. You have to empower your employees to make sure that we are here to do a good product. We are here to send a good product to a customer. You have to empower employees to be very transparent, and it should be manageable. And top management should be at every stage. If there's a problem, if good successful companies, top management is they are on the floor helping the quality managers, helping the quality engineers to enforce the right quality corrective actions, then you will be very successful. And most important is the KPIs. If a good top management team, in order to have a good corrective action, will always have a review of a good KPI. That means if your corrective actions are sustainable, if you have a repeat issue, the management goes and asks us, hey, I just had this in January, now it is back in March. You have the same problem. What did that go wrong? If good management team asks us that question, there is a lot of hidden factory behind it. They can save a lot of money, and they can also satisfy the customer that you are reviewing it at every level. And that's very important. Transparency is the key to any success of any company internally, to themselves, and also to the customer. Okay. So the most important thing is that people, when you're looking at the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When management and sustainable corrective action. Again, I keep on emphasizing management because a lot of companies or suppliers which I've worked with, they always say it's a quality department's job, it's not my job. So yeah, when you have a corrective action, start from where it belongs to. Many people forget that it also belongs to the design phase. If you are design responsible, or if your customer is design responsible, if he is giving you to print, start with design. Start with design FMEA and see what are the flaws there, and see what led to the process. Is it a process problem? Is it a design problem? Do not leave that area because that's important there, and provide the right support where it's required. Because every time, if the customer wants it in 24 hours, in 48 hours, the more you drag your corrective action, the more the cost for you, the more the dissatisfied customer would be. So provide the right support to have the corrective action in time, and that will help your customers internally. You'll solve the problem fast, and the customer will be like, wow, this one of my suppliers did it in a record time. Find the root cause, and when you look at all the root cause, find the real root cause. It's just like a crime scene. When you go to a crime scene, you have multiple evidences there, but you really do not know what exactly caused the crime. So you have to look at the right scene in order to do what exactly, if you want your customer to understand that I found the right root cause and this is how you have to do it. If you do not have the right root cause, then you may end up doing something wrong, and again the repeat issues happens. It will not be done. So the most important and not is that provide the tools to your team. if the root cause comes back and says, okay, here is the equipment problem and it has not been maintained, so we should, as management, they should take a risk and say, okay, I'm going to fix this machine, provide the right tools, make sure if there's a lighting problem, provide the right lighting. If there's a problem with the design, make sure the design is right, or the processes have to be done the right way. If you have a good corrective action in manufacturing, is that if you use your FMEA and Pokioki and error proof, you will have a sustainable corrective action. Training is great, but 80% of the people get trained and 20% of the product will still escape. So always have checks and balances in place. So small gadgets and tools will help you to monitor it the best way you could. So provide the right tools to your people. Just do not say sort or inspect. Inspection is not a corrective action. Inspection is just checking someone else's work. Next slide.
Okay.
One of the most efficient tools which I've seen here, which worked, I've seen everywhere. It's also our customer's requirement. If you're looking with Chrysler or with GM, they ask you for layered process audit. So even if you incorporate all your corrective actions on a layered process audit, has it been done? It could be start from a design phase. It can be monitored. It could be efficient. It can be valuable. So if you have a layered process audit also from a corrective action perspective, and all different layers can verify it on the floor or wherever the issue happened, that the effectiveness is measured, it's implemented, and it's valuable, and that's how you look at from a layered process audit perspective. The next slide.
And actually, if it's okay, since you kind of talked a little bit about beacon quality here, I'm going to have Paul jump in and talk to us a little bit about some of the updates that are coming to beacon quality in relation to corrective actions.
Sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel. So, layered process audits is one of the things that Beacon has done really well for a couple of years now, and we did launch a corrective action module to complement that, and we're committed to continuing to improve that. One of the main pieces that Ali just touched on is validating the effectiveness. So we're going to be improving our corrective actions to make it easier to validate the effectiveness of any corrective actions that are put in place after they've already been closed out. And then in general, we really just want to make it a more robust tool and more customizable. We want to expand upon the information that is gathered and the way that it is presented to people that are doing these write-ups and communicating with each other to implement these corrective actions. We also are going to be adjusting some of the permissions and email notifications to make sure that the right people are being involved, from the management being involved in the right steps of the process, down to the bottom of the people doing write-ups and implementing any changes that need to be made on the factory floor. Those are some of the things that are at the top of our mind as we go to improve our corrective actions within Beacon.
Thank you, Paul. Ali, I've switched to the next slide for you.
Okay. Basically, the last slide is a conclusion. Like in order to have a effective corrective action, which is equal to critical. For example, when a customer gives you a complaint, whether example like my daughter, she likes Taco Bell, and then anything is not right, she says this is not right. So an 8-year-old can tell you that this is not right. Imagine in the automotive industry, or every day, or most of the companies receive complaints and they do not, something is not right. So you have to make sure that it's critical. You have to use the word critical there. That means if your customer is not happy, that's why he's complaining about you. So you should go ahead and try new technology, try to automate it as much as possible, into the system that automate does not mean to spend a lot of money. Automation can also come with small little tools like, Pokioki, small things where the human factor is out. So make sure that challenge your people, come up with some great ideas, motivate them, and award them with giving them small ideas, and they'll bring back to you, and you'll see how much difference it can make. So if you have a good corrective action, you reduce the risk. If you look at the first slide I showed you after the agenda is like recalls. You reduce the risk. You have a name in the market, and when a recall happens, sales of most of the companies go down, and even small suppliers get affected big time because I've never seen a recall less than $1 million, even for a small part. So that can goes into multiple layers of money where it affects the sales, it affects the paycheck, it affects everybody, and moreover the reputation of each supplier to have his current business and future business. Everybody does mistakes. There's no rocket science about it. But if you have a good corrective action, you accept the corrective action, then even your customers will say yes, the corrective actions are effective. And finally, the most important thing, if you want to have a good corrective action, all quality managers and everybody in production should involve their management. They should involve their management because management plays a key role. Bring them on board, explain them, and when you go to your management, speak in terms of dollars and cents. When you involve them and say this much cost, this much money, this is what is happening. If you put this corrective action in a certain way, if you have a Pokioki, explain in terms of dollars and cents, management will listen to you because inspection is not a corrective action. Checking parts is not a corrective action. This is non-value added thing. Corrective action is go to your process, fix your process, and then it should be a permanent corrective action. So having said that, I think I'm on my last slide.
Yeah.
I can open up for questions.
Fantastic. And we actually did get some questions here, so let me pull that up.
So I don't know, if you can let me know what the question is, I'll try to answer it.
Absolutely. So James is asking, these roadblocks seem to exist in all manufacturing plants. How can a company get past the roadblocks? And I think he was talking about the corrective actions roadblocks. Let me get to that page.
Yeah, that's a very good question. How to get to the company? For every company, the roadblocks is about the culture. The best way to avoid to get the roadblock out of your way is a quality department should go with facts and figures. Do not go to a management because the people sitting in the management, they look at numbers, they look at how value it is. So go to your management and say, this corrective action this is the value of it, and if you do not do it, you'll get more problems, and this is what you will get. It may lead to a recall, or it can be a huge example. Like say, if you do not do the right corrective action, like a company like GM would put you on CS1, like a third-party sort. That will be too expensive for you. So it's explain in terms in dollars and cents.
So money talks.
Yeah, money talks.
Just a reminder to everyone, you can use the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar module or console that's on your computer there to ask a question. You just type it in and we'll ask it over the thing. The other question we have here is from Andrew. How often should KPIs be reviewed? He gives examples of percentage of units, 10%, or at time periods, monthly, quarterly, etc. Like how often should you review those KPIs?
KPIs can be reviewed. Like example, you have a daily meeting. I do not know whatever product it is, the company does, Andrew does for his thing. There are daily meetings that could be a good KPI that I have this problem when you're doing the Gemba walks. Then there is a management meeting which all the managers go for once a month. That's a good place to start with your KPIs and say this: we had so many complaints, we had so many corrective actions, and how many are open and how many are closed. That is one level. Then there are quarterly management meetings, and there is a high-level management meetings from the corporate. So what at your management level meetings, the same KPI, you should show it to your top management and say this is exactly what we are looking for, because most of the money also comes from the corporate offices. If they do not know your problem, they will not sanction you the money. So it depends on how big is your problem, and if you want a big investment to be made, then you have to show that KPI of the investment is to be justified at every level of management. But if you have a mixed part, I would not go to that level. Mixed part is more like a common sense, a corrective action. That could be up to the management at the plant,
Got it. Another question we have is if the PowerPoint would actually be available, because Ron would like to share it with his team during his next meeting. If it's okay with you, Ali, I can make this as a PDF.
That's fine with me. Yeah, that's absolutely no problem, because it's helping the different manufacturing companies and different managers where to look for. Basically, talk to your management, talk in dollars and cents, and put effective corrective actions, which can save you money and bring value to and help the customer. Yeah, it's absolutely no problem.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And then another question regarding roadblocks. How does your company change our normal to establishing a new culture? So how do you go from that transition of, well, this is our normal, to, well, that's not our normal anymore?
At my company, our management is very, very much involved right from the beginning. Means is transparency the key to our success? Like, if you do not be transparent, for example, if you have a line shutdown, or if you have anywhere, our top management knows the same day. So the roadblock is cleared. So you have to build a culture of transparency and trust, and you have to have that, because if you do not have the trust within your own team, and how are they going to know about it? So it's sometimes the people who know the problem, they do not escalate to the next level, and if they do not know it and they sit there for like 15 days, you are not doing favor to your company. You're wasting a lot of their valuable resources.
Right. Okay. We have a couple more questions. We have just a few more minutes. How do you personally encourage the C-level or the top management to get involved in reviewing corrective actions?
Okay, if you're speaking personally about me, I'm a people's person. I go on the floor. If I'm visiting any plants or something, I would talk to my people at the floor level. What exactly is your problem to the operator level? Why is this process not being done? Then I will take that notes, and because he or she is telling me something which that has, and I'll cut through all the levels, and I'll go to the management and say, this is the problem, we need to fix it, and we'll bring the management. If you can make a point to bring your top managers on the floor, one of the best ways to help the quality managers is, like, when your top management comes, you should tell them, hey, I have these 5 corrective actions, pick one from them, can you go and verify on the floor? And if you verify on the floor, that shows the middle level management, somebody from corporate is also looking into it. They cannot verify all 5 of them, but if you put it like a gondola and pick one from them, that convinces the management that the team is interested. So it's the job of the quality manager to bring value by convincing the top management, can you come on the floor and help me to verify this? Give them the opportunity to see your work, and then the other people who are not cooperating will come to the floor and say, wow, my executive is here and he's looking at this corrective action. So they will be more involved in it.
Very good. Thank you for that. 2 minutes left. Let me see if there's other questions here.
I have a question. So a lot of the people that I talk to when doing my research for Beacon Corrective Actions is it feels like 8D methodology is just implicitly or explicitly linked in the minds of a lot of people with corrective actions. What are your thoughts on 8D and straying from that kind of standard or the role of 8D within corrective actions?
8D is basically a Ford generated thing, because if you have a global Ford 8D, that's how they happen. So most of the companies acquired it. But a corrective action is basically three things. Like GM does 5 Whys. Everybody can call it whatever they want, but if corrective action comes to, in my view, three things. If you have a problem, you did a containment, you have a root cause, and finally, do you have a solution for that? Now, how you put it in a different format, whether you want it in a PowerPoint, you want it in a Word format, you want it in Excel, the definition is still the same. The bottom line is the customer will tell you in his portal, this is the way he wants to send the 8D back in the whatever the portal says, your customer specific requirement, you have to answer in that way. For example, a lot of people do 8Ds, but they answer in the customer portal. For example, Honda doesn't use 8D, they use a different system. So you have to take all your information from your 8D, put it back into the portal. So 8D is just a methodology. Means you can use, there are multiple ways to do a problem solving. Keep in mind, good problem solving comes from a good problem, a definition, a root cause, make sure your customer is happy by containment, and finally, and most important, is that your permanent corrective action.
Thank you.
And we are at the 9 o'clock hour, at the top of the hour here. But we have one last question, if you don't mind, Ali,
sure.
or do you have to go? Okay, great.
No, I'm fine.
So
I'm fine.
Oh, thank you. So one last question from James. How does one quantify in dollars? And maybe this is too big of a question for a few minutes, but how does one quantify in dollars the costs associated with a culture where you're not following SOP, and following a SOP is rampant?
Standard operating procedure.
Okay.
The standard operating procedure. Okay, I got it. Yeah. How you quantify in dollars? And now it depends. For example, like if you have a process and which is done by the parts approval process. Now, if it has 5 steps to it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if the part comes out perfectly, you don't need to do anything. If you're adding any step to it, like rework or touching the part or repackaging it or something, that is a cost. Calculate that cost. For example, if your machine is broken down and you're adding one more process, you're adding one more body to it to recheck the part or do something to it which is not part of the calculate the full cost by shift, by time, by thing, and multiply it by the number of 30 days or for a year, and that will give you a value of a cost to your management. Say, my original process according to my PPAP is 5 steps. I'm adding the 6th step. The 6th step is costing $100,000. Do you want to do $100,000, or you want to fix the machine, or you want to fix the fixture, or do you want to fix the lighting, or do you want to fix the material? Challenge that,
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the one way to do that is, for internal, is that the amount of scrap you created because of, that could be multiple reasons, man, machine, method, fixtures, calculate that cost. How much is it worth it? Because if your 3% scrap could be a huge amount of money over a period of 1 year,
Right. So calculating it over the course of a year versus
right. Anything which is out of your process, anything you touch, like if you have 5 steps, you add any 6th step to it, that is a cost, and that's how you justify your corrective action. And that corrective action could be, hey, I want to buy this new equipment, and that costs less money, or it could cost more money for the short term or for the long run. People should come out of not doing short-term corrective action. They should look at a long-term corrective action.
Thank you so much, Ali. I know this is probably our most well-attended webinar ever, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You did a fantastic job. I know a lot of people were very interested in not just corrective actions, but effective corrective actions. And if anyone's interested in Beacon Quality to help manage these corrective actions, or your layer process audits, or any other kind of high-frequency audits that helps to bring the quality to the plant floor, you can go to our website, beaconquality.com, and click to request a demo. So thank you again. I will be sending this recording to everyone, and as well as the PowerPoint. So thank you so much, Ali.
Yeah, thank you everybody for participating, and thank you, Rachel, and for that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.